Hey everyone, welcome back. My name is Val. In this video, I'll be covering the 5 most important things to consider when choosing seeds for your garden. There are so many seed sellers and catalogs and websites out there. It's hard for either a new gardener or somebody that's thinking about growing something new to pick the right varieties for their garden. So in this video, I'll be giving you 5 tips on how to pick the right seeds and the right varieties for your garden. I'm also including a bonus tip at the end, as well as sharing a personal story from this year and an important lesson learned, something that I failed to do in my garden and had a bit of a situation, which I'll get into at the end of the video. But let's jump in. Tip number 1, understand your growing conditions. There's a few things that go into this. Firstly, and probably one of the most important, is know your zone, or what they call your hardiness zone or your growing zone. Those are all, the same thing. And that's what helps you understand what plants will grow and survive in your climate. I'll include some links below for Canada and the US to determine. There's a website that you input your information and it tells you what zone you're in based on where you're located. But that's probably the biggest thing. Also, part of that is understanding your environment. In particular, this is your climate. Things like what your frost dates are, your first and last frost dates, if that's applicable to you. Are there typical temperature fluctuations, and the type of climate that you live in. Growing in a coastal climate versus a desert climate, it's very different. So knowing where you are and knowing all of the components around that is important. Sunlight. How much sun is your garden going to get? And that will differ based on what season you're in, and because the sun is typically lower in the sky in the winter. But in the summertime, how much sun is your garden going to get? And that's going to be important because there's certain plants that require, 6 to 8 hours of sun to fruit, etc. So knowing how much sun your garden gets is key. Soil. Know your soil type. Is it sandy? Is it loamy? Is it clay? There are certain plants that thrive or prefer certain soil types. So it's important to know what soil you'll be growing in. And it's different. This is primarily if you're planning on growing in the ground, in the native soil. If you're planning on growing in raised beds or containers, it's a little less important because we typically purchase soil and fill those things. So we have a little bit more control over it. But soil is also a key factor. And then space. Are you going to be growing on a balcony? Do you have, in which case, it might make more sense to purchase seeds that are for smaller varieties, patio size, dwarf varieties like bush beans or things like that don't take as much room. Do you have the extra equipment that you might need for something that'll grow, like sugar snap peas, that vine that grows 6 feet tall? You'll need a trellis. Do you have one? Is it in the budget? Things like that. Space considerations are things that you want to take into account when you're purchasing or selecting the seeds for your garden. Tip number 2, grow what you love. There's no sense in growing a garden full of broccoli if your family doesn't eat it. Grow things that you like to eat, that you and your family enjoy. Grow what excites you. Things that are exciting or interesting to you, whether it's, spicy peppers or culinary herbs or fragrant flowers. If it's exciting to you, you'll be more likely to tend to it and take care of your garden. Tip number 3, be practical but adventurous. What that means is grow what you eat, but don't be afraid to try something new, because maybe not all new for your entire garden. I make a habit of trying at least 2 or 3 new things every growing season. I have my tried and true crops that I grow every year, but I always like to throw in, a couple of new things, new to me, just to keep learning how to grow new things. And sometimes you'll discover a new favorite along the way, and that's what makes gardening fun. Tip number 4, buy from reputable sources. So there's a lot of seed companies out there. I typically buy from companies that have been doing it for a while. They've been in the business for a long time. They know the whole process, the certifications they need to get. They typically have a lot of information on their website, and including, crop details, planting instructions, days to maturity, germination rates, all of those things that, just back up their knowledge of the seeds that they're selling. And read the reviews. These are usually left by other gardeners who have grown the seeds that you're looking at. They share successes, they share failures. That information to me is critical. And I'm going to get back to that in my personal story that I'm going to share at the end. It's a lesson learned, an opportunity for improvement. Tip number 5, buy from local sources. So anyone that's growing seed and selling seed in your region, so the closer to you that they are, those seeds have already adapted to your climate, your growing conditions, probably the soil if it's close enough to where you live. They'll just naturally do better in your garden. So the closer to you, the local source of where you're obtaining your seeds, the better. You're already ahead of the game if you choose if you purchase seeds from a local seller. And then the bonus tip is learn. It's kind of goes hand in hand with that. It's worthwhile to learn how to harvest seeds from your own garden for those same reasons. So if you've had a particularly successful crop in any given season, harvest those seeds at the end of the plant's life cycle to use in next year's growing season, because those seeds they've grown in your garden, they did well for you, they're already adapted to your soil, to your climate, all of those things. So you can't get any better than something that was successfully grown in your garden. So collect the seeds from those plants and use them the following year. Don't collect anything that didn't do well or that has, problems or disease or whatnot. Don't do it for those. But for things that worked really, really well, harvest those seeds. They're probably the best thing that will come out of that garden, because they're local to you. They're in your backyard. Okay, those were my 5 tips plus the bonus tip. Now I wanted to share a story about what happened to me this year. So if any of you have been following along with the peas in my backyard. So let me just give a quick recap about what happened with the peas. End of March, I sowed peas, sugar snap peas in my garden. And these were seeds that I've had probably for 3 years, and I've been using every year. I bought a pretty large bag, and I've used them every year. They came up, peas were great, everything was fine. This year, we've had a little bit of a strange spring. It got cool, there was some weird fluctuations in the temperatures, and after 10, 12 days, they hadn't germinated yet. So I thought that maybe this year was the year that my seeds were no longer viable. So I was at my grocery store, and I saw the seed racks. They always come out in the spring and the summer, and they're typically from reputable vendors. So I took a look and I said, you know what, just in case my seeds are not viable, I'm going to grab a couple of packets and sow another set in my garden. So my mistake here was that I didn't read the online reviews, and I'll get to why that became a problem in a second. So I'll come back home, I seed these new peas in the same place where my old peas were. Sure enough, like within 5 to 7 days, both sets of peas germinated. The ones that I usually grow in my garden, they came up, and these new seeds came up. But when the first set, my usual sugar snap peas grew, they germinated, they grew, they bloomed, and they started producing. They produced what I was used to. The new seeds that I purchased at the grocery store without doing my due diligence, note to self, don't do that again. They germinated, they grew, they bloomed. However, the pods that they produced were not what was described on the packet. On the packet was sugar snap peas, X inches long, all of these great things. But when we tasted them, the pods were not edible. And a sugar snap pea, you can eat the pods, right? You couldn't eat them. It was almost like a shelling pea. It was the strangest thing. And we're like, what is going on? So then I went onto the website and I see all these reviews from other gardeners expressing the same problems and this was reviews going back like 10 plus years. And obviously it explained the issue that I was having. What I did to save that crop was if I was frustrated. I was really mad. Now I've calmed down a little and I can talk about it. At the time I was angry. But what I decided to do was the ones that were, the pods that were on the vines that were already at that inedible pod fibrous stage, I harvested all of those and I shelled them. Because the peas inside were fine. So I just said, you know what, that's not lost. I'll shell all of those. I have a bowl full of peas now. Of varying sizes. They taste good, so that's fine. And then the ones that are just growing, that will eventually become these fibrous and edible pods, I'll harvest them as snow peas, you know, when they're really flat. And because I was tasting the different, I was tasting the pods at different stages of their growth on the vines just to see, you know, what can I salvage from this crop. So right now I've got snow pea, like they're just very immature sugar snap peas, if that's even what they are. I don't even know what they are at this point. And they're just flat, and we're going to eat them like snow peas. And we have shelled peas, which we're going to eat as shelled peas. And then we have the ones that the ones that I've grown for years. But it just goes to show that, like, it's always important to do your research. Just don't just don't buy something off the shelf or something that you haven't read up on. And in particular, those reviews from other gardeners are critical. They're essential because they're like you and I. They're people that have tried, they've planted these seeds, they've tried them, they've grown them in their garden. This worked well, this didn't work well. Some of that information could be important or relevant to you. Now, at the time, I was super frustrated. I was frustrated now because the fact that I planted these peas as a second round in case my original ones didn't work out, they weren't even part of my plan. So I've kind of made peace with, you know, I still have my other peas are producing like crazy. We've had so many so far, so it's fine. This was kind of a plan B, which didn't really work out, but I'm going to make it work by just shifting the way we're going to eat that second crop of peas. But what really frustrated me was reading the reviews on the website, and the seller over 10, like this, there's reviews there from 10 years ago advising of the issue. And there's maybe 2 or 3 responses from the vendor, from the seed seller that says, oh, it must be your conditions, or you must have left them in too late, or it was too hot. But this is like, everybody's complaining that what's on the packet, the seeds are not true to type. And I think that's what frustrated me the most, is that the seller, and this is a known seller. I don't want to, you know, share the information in a video, but we all know who this seller is. The fact that they not pointed the finger at the consumer, at the gardener, but didn't take it upon themselves over 10 plus years to try to figure out what the issue was. I find that left a bad taste in my mouth, and it's unfortunate. But shame on me for not checking the reviews before I bought those pea seeds, because I would have seen it clear as day. Like, they have like 2 stars with all these complaints. And like, people have even reached out to try to say, like, I think I figured out the issue. And anywho, it is what it is. But all of that to say, lesson learned for me. I will never, and I usually do all my research. I usually buy from the same vendors that I've had good success with in the past. And that was kind of a spontaneous, you know, not panic purchase, but I said, okay, I need to get some peas to replace the one just in case my seeds don't come up. So I bought some seeds. And my fault for not doing the research. So that was my personal story. I hope you found this video useful. If you're looking to start a new garden, trying to figure out what seeds do I buy, go through those 5 tips that I shared earlier. Hopefully it'll demystify some of that process for you. Don't give up gardening. This is probably the first issue that I've ever had with seeds in my 15 plus years of gardening. It was bound to happen at some point, but partially it's my own fault for not, you know, going online and doing my research and reading the reviews. Anyhow, happy gardening. If you haven't done it already, please subscribe and like this video if you found it useful. And I'll see you next time. Happy gardening, everybody.